Welcome back everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to use the Easy Pro Mortise Tenon Jig by General Tools. It's definitely not a very expensive solution. I've been curious about it for a long time, and finally I decided to purchase it. Now, I'm not sponsored by General Tools in any way. I'm not being paid to do this video. I bought this jig with my own money and decided to give it a go. In the past, I've done mortise and tenon joinery using my router or my router table, a combination of that and or my table saw to do the tenons. I've never really seen one jig that does both and a system that does it so that it matches the parts consistently. So I'm going to give this a try and I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride. Okay, we'll start with going over what's in the kit and what's included with this jig. Alright, what's in the jig itself? So you cut your mortises on this side, you cut your tenons on this side. The clamping mechanism for the jig is really simple. The way it works is the workpiece will go inside the jig and these little built-in clamps hold your workpiece in place. On the side of the jig is where you set the thickness of your workpiece. So there's an adjustment screw on the bottom here and there's one on the other end. You loosen those and you set your thickness according to what you're working with. Right now it's set to 3, which is 3/4 inch stock. The clamping mechanism is pretty easy to adjust. Some pretty cool features with this. These little red tabs, you flick them open for centering your work. You've got the vertical center lines and then you've got the horizontal center marks. It comes with these on either side. Again, for your tenon, you can do the same thing and then they just flip back out of the way. Super easy. Now the one trick with this, which I'll find out how painful it is or not, when you're cutting the tenon, you basically got to use a guide bushing and go follow the outside edge of the jig. You really got to keep control of your router the whole way through, otherwise you can end up skipping through the center and gouging out your material in a place you don't want to gouge it out. As you can see, there's a scale here on the jig that will help you adjust according to the width of your stock. So now let's take a look at the accessories that come with this jig. I put mine in a little box just so I didn't lose all the small parts. First, I'll start with the part that I actually don't know what this is for, to be honest with you. It's not part of the user manual. It looks like a clamping mechanism that's supplementary, so if anybody knows what this is, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Okay, so this is the entire kit, the accessories. What's really cool about this is it comes with a guide bushing set. So this is a quick change guide bushing, which is really cool. Much better than the traditional guide bushing set that I have. You can swap these in and out really easily. These are the sizes that come with the kit, and these are guaranteed to work within their chart that they include in the instruction manual. So you can see the flanges on here, and then you use this special wrench to tighten it. This is a centering guide for a 1/4 inch collet on your router. And I should mention right off the top, this is meant for a 1/4 inch collet. This is not meant for a 1/2 inch. So basically the most common size of router bit. It comes with a carbide spiral flute bit, good quality. What I can say about General Tools is they always provide really good quality accessories. Everything's made of metal. There's nothing that's really made of plastic. Everything's made to last a very long time. So now that we've done an overview and we've gone through all the parts, let's get this thing in action. So here I have my Makita Plunge router upside down. Now on my Makita router, it did not come with a guide adapter. It just had this big hole in the middle. So I ordered this guide adapter from ShopFox. If you are in the same situation, you can order this. It's a standard size and it works great with this bushing set. So I can pop this guide bushing in, no problem, fits it perfectly. The first place you need to start is you need a way to mount the jig onto your workbench. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it onto this piece of plywood I have in the scrap bin, and I'm going to just rip it so that it's deep enough to be clamped on the inside of the bench via the dog holes, or it can be clamped to the edge on either side. The one thing I should have pointed out earlier, there are 3 mounting holes on this jig, and that's what we'll use to attach it to our plywood. So I can use a hole down here, and I also have the option of using the squeeze clamp. So now that's not going anywhere. What I'm going to do is cut my mortises into this 3.5 inch piece of board, and I'm going to use this 2.5 inch piece for my tenons. So everything will be referenced off the tenon piece. So I'm going to start with the mortise side first. So I'm just locking up my scale here, and it's set at 2.5 inches. And I've got the other side already set up. And for the tenon side, I've locked it down at 2.5 inches as well. So if this works the way it's supposed to, my parts should match up perfectly. What I'm going to do first is mark the location of my joint. So I'm going to take my 2.5 inch piece, which will be my tenon. I'm going to mark that. So now I've got the width of my tenon marked. So next I just have to put down my center mark. I'm going to place my workpiece into the jig, and I'm going to get my marking tabs out, and then I just align, and then you simply clamp it in and move your tabs back, and you're ready to go. This is the guide bushing you'll use to cut all of your mortises regardless of the size variation in tenon, and that fits perfectly in this groove here, so you don't even have to worry about it moving around on you. You just have to plunge. That's not too bad. So I've got my center mark on my tenon. I'm going to place it inside the jig. What I want to do first is I want to engage the guide tabs. I want those out first, and it should sit flush on those tabs. Okay, I'm satisfied with that, so we're ready to cut. The scale is set for the size of tenon that I'm cutting, and for the thickness of the tenon. I didn't need to change out the guide bushing. I'm still using the same one. That went pretty smooth. It wasn't very difficult to guide around the outside edge. And they've also been kind enough to put directional arrows to follow so that you know which way you've got to go with your rotation. Just a really tiny bit of cleanup. Cuts the shoulders perfectly. So now for the moment of truth. I've got my mortise, my tenon. That's a pretty decent fit right there. I can't complain about that at all. That is probably the easiest mortise and tenon I've ever made. The best fitting too. It's really nice and snug. I don't know if you can hear that. Hear that little click? This joint holds up really well even with no glue in it. That was a pretty successful test drive on this jig. Pretty reliable. The parts match quite well. I mean, the worst thing that you'll have to do is maybe a tiny bit of sanding, maybe a very minuscule amount of chiseling to get the shoulders straightened out a bit. As far as the mortising part of the jig goes, I think that it's not worth spending the $80 to $100, depending on what country you live in, to buy this jig. You can build a self-centering mortising jig for $6, and there's a link to the video that I did on it in the description below. So I think this jig is worth it. I think that if you're going to do traditional mortise and tenon joinery and you want to save some time, this is the way to go. Normally I would have to use a combination of my router and my table saw and a few other things to get through a Mortise Tenon join, but in this case, all I needed was my plunge router and this jig, and everything was done. If you have any questions about this jig, or really about anything else, please deposit your questions in the comment section below. If you want to buy me a beer, head on over to my Patreon page right over here. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. There are a couple more videos on this side you can watch. Until next time, thanks for watching, and have a great day.